A realm where your greatest adversary isn't the individual confronting you, but the restrictions you've imposed upon yourself. How do you overcome your enemy without engaging in combat? Who is your true enemy? Is it the person competing with you in the business world, your academic rival, or perhaps that internal voice whispering that you're not capable enough? Whatever form this opponent takes, I want you to bring them into your mental view right now. Envision them vividly. Good. Now, here's a truth that can liberate you. Your enemy only holds the power you allow them to have. Let me emphasize, your enemy's strength correlates directly with how significant you perceive them to be in your world. Let's delve into that. When we speak about eliminating enemies, we're not referring to destroying them physically. We're talking about rendering them irrelevant. We're talking about rising to a level where they can no longer touch you. It's about becoming so devoted to your path that their presence fades into the background. True victory isn't found in winning a confrontation. It's found in making that confrontation pointless. It's found in lifting yourself so high that the very fights others try to provoke you into no longer warrant your attention. Now, you might be wondering, how do you accomplish that? How do you soar above it all when it feels like your enemies are trying to pull you down at every turn? That's a fair question. Let me share with you 5 transformative principles that can shift the way you handle your enemies forever. First, prioritize your mission over your opposition. Your mission acts as a compass, guiding you toward your potential. When you are genuinely aligned with that mission, the efforts of your enemies become static, just noise in the distance. Think of it like you're on a road trip. Your mission is the destination. Your enemy, they're merely a billboard by the side of the highway. The more you stare at the billboard, the more likely you are to swerve off your path. Stay fixed on your journey. Keep progressing toward your vision. Second, develop deep self-awareness. As the ancients advised, know yourself. Understanding your fears, drives, talents, and flaws is critical. Why? Because awareness of self is the bedrock of transformation. Once you fully know yourself, outside influences lose their grip on you. No one's insults can unnerve you when you're rooted in your truth. No attack can throw you off when you are anchored in your identity. Third, harness emotional intelligence. This isn't just about handling your own emotions, but also interpreting and engaging with the emotions of others. Emotional intelligence gives you the capacity to respond instead of react. Consider how often you've been baited into conflicts because someone knew just what buttons to push. How many of those instances led to decisions or words you later regretted? With emotional intelligence, you gain the power to pause, to choose, to remain composed even when provoked. Fourth, fortify your network. Surround yourself with those who elevate, challenge, and genuinely believe in you. Your circle of influence is a protective barrier. The stronger your network, the more resilient you become to outside negativity. Remember, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, so pick wisely. Let your community be one that fuels your purpose, not detracts from it. Fifth, dedicate yourself to constant growth. This is perhaps the most potent principle of all. When you commit to bettering yourself every single day, even by just a small margin, you create an ever-expanding divide between you and your adversaries. Improve by 1% daily, and in 70 days, you've doubled your capacity. In a year, you've become 37 times the person you once were. Can you feel the gravity of that? While others may be plotting, you're evolving. While they waste time in envy, you're becoming a force of nature. Your mission isn't just about personal goals. It's about the ripple effect of your impact. It's about how many lives you uplift, the changes you catalyze, the footprint you leave behind. When you're engrossed in fulfilling that larger calling, petty disputes and trivial confrontations lose all meaning. Why? Because you're operating on a much higher plane. You're not consumed with winning verbal spats or one-upping your rival. You're immersed in maximizing your potential and creating value. Picture this. You're an entrepreneur aiming to redefine education with innovative technology. A competitor is constantly undermining you, stealing ideas, spreading misinformation. Now, you could channel your energy into retaliation, expose them, or try to outmaneuver them in every petty exchange. Or you could focus that energy into refining your platform, impacting more learners, and genuinely transforming education. Ask yourself, what will have the greater return? Which route will bring lasting fulfillment? Which path leaves a real mark? When you're driven by purpose, there's simply no bandwidth left for enemies. You're too engrossed in building something meaningful. Self-awareness acts as an unfiltered mirror, showing you the truth without disguise. It helps you acknowledge your beliefs, values, assets, and your vulnerabilities. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths, and that's essential, because most of the time, our enemies gain leverage over us, not by force, but by pressing into the cracks in our confidence. If you know your own wounds, you don't fear someone else poking them. If you know your own shadows, no one can surprise you with them. Many of the people we label as enemies are just reflecting the parts of ourselves we haven't come to terms with. Through self-awareness, those perceived threats begin to dissolve. Sometimes, these enemies are really unintentional teachers, showing us where we need to evolve. Let me illustrate this with a story. Early in my journey, I had a colleague who pushed back on everything I said. Any idea I proposed, he would tear it apart. I began to resent him deeply. He felt like a permanent obstacle, a source of relentless friction. But one day I paused and looked inward. I asked myself, why does this get under my skin so much? And then it hit me. I wasn't angry at him. I was uncertain about my own ideas. His criticism echoed the doubts I already had about myself. That realization shifted everything. I stopped seeing him as a nemesis. I started to see him as a reflection, a mirror of my own fears. And once I accepted that, I could work on those fears. I became more confident in my own contributions. Strangely enough, his feedback started helping me. He was forcing me to think more deeply, to clarify, to grow. That's the quiet magic of self-awarenesses. It can transform perceived enemies into catalysts for progress. Now let's talk again about emotional intelligence, because this skill is vital. It's not just about managing yourself, it's about interacting with the world in a way that brings clarity, not chaos. With emotional intelligence, you don't allow situations to control you. You navigate them with strategy. Imagine presenting an important idea in a meeting. Someone interrupts and tears it down, not constructively but personally. They're not just disagreeing, they're trying to provoke you. Without emotional control, you might snap back, raise your voice, lose your composure. That one moment of anger could jeopardize the impression you make on everyone else in the room. But with emotional intelligence, you don't react. You respond. You remain composed. You separate the emotion from the logic. You find whatever valid points may be buried beneath the hostility and use them to improve your idea. You de-escalate instead of fueling the fire. And in doing so, you display leadership. You earn respect, not through dominance, but through discipline. That's what emotional intelligence gives you. Composure, empathy, discernment. It allows you to see that most attacks aren't personal. They're projections. They come from other people's own fears and battles. When you recognize that, you gain the power to rise above the noise. You stop being a puppet of your emotions. You stop becoming the author of your responses. So when you encounter resistance, remember, it's not about silencing your enemy. It's about silencing the noise inside your own mind that tells you they matter more than they do. It's about mastering yourself so thoroughly that others can no longer manipulate your state of being. It's about focusing on your path with such precision that distractions fall away. When you operate at that level, the concept of an enemy begins to lose meaning, because you're not just playing to win, you're playing to evolve. And in that evolution, you leave your adversaries behind, not through conflict, but through ascension. It allows you to respond instead of react. It empowers you to choose your actions deliberately, rather than being ruled by your emotional impulses. Let me offer another example of how emotional intelligence can transform the way you handle adversaries. Picture this. You're a team leader and there's someone on your team who continuously undermines your authority. They spread toxic gossip, resist your direction, and contribute to a negative work environment. Now, an emotionally unaware reaction might be to confront them with hostility, threaten disciplinary measures, or dive into a power battle. But what does that really accomplish? It only intensifies the conflict, breeds more hostility, and diverts your energy from what truly matters. The emotionally intelligent response looks very different. You step back first. You attempt to understand what's fueling this person's behavior. Are they feeling threatened in their role? Are they experiencing frustration about something unrelated? When you get to the root of their emotions, you begin to see a clearer picture. You might invite them for a private conversation, one where you listen more than you speak. You acknowledge their feelings without necessarily agreeing with their actions. You search for ways to align their personal goals with the broader objectives of the team. In doing so, you may transform an adversary into an ally. This method doesn't merely address the immediate issue. It shows true leadership. It cultivates respect. It builds a culture where disagreements are navigated constructively rather than destructively. That's the strength emotional intelligence brings to dealing with opponents. It converts conflict into a gateway for insight and development. The people you choose to surround yourself with shape your reality in more ways than you might realize. They influence your thoughts, impact your decisions, alter your emotional landscape, and even contribute to your success or failure. Your sphere of influence must be built with intentionality. It should include individuals who genuinely encourage your aspirations, who motivate you to elevate yourself, and who amplify your strengths. These are the people who will stand by your side in difficult times, who will rejoice in your achievements, and who will speak truthfully to you when it's needed most. A strong and positive circle makes you more resistant to external toxicity. Their support acts as armor, insulating you from the harmful actions of others. More than that, a well-developed circle of influence can often make your enemies powerless without you lifting a finger. Your credibility, your relationships, your reputation, these can be more powerful deterrents than any direct confrontation. But remember, cultivating such a circle is not about collecting powerful allies for personal benefit. It's about forming meaningful bonds, rooted in respect and shared purpose. It's about seeking connection with those who help you rise, not simply those who benefit your position. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're an artist, and there's another artist in your local scene who's always criticizing your creations, discouraging gallery owners from exhibiting your work, and even trying to turn other artists against you. Now, if you're isolated and unsupported, these attacks can feel devastating. They can make you question your worth, perhaps even consider abandoning your craft. But picture a different scenario. You've built a strong network. You've earned the trust of gallery owners who recognize your talent. You belong to a supportive community of fellow artists who value your unique vision. You've been mentored by experienced individuals who help you navigate tough moments. In that environment, your enemy's efforts lose their bite. Gallery owners disregard the petty criticism and continue promoting your work. Fellow artists defend your character. Mentors help you turn the situation into a lesson rather than a defeat. That's the strength of a powerful circle. You are never fighting alone. You are lifted by the people you've invested in, the community you've nurtured. Creating such a network doesn't happen overnight. It requires authentic effort. It's not about shallow networking or transactional relationships. It's about being real, about being someone others want to support, about offering value rather than simply asking for it. So, how do you start building this kind of circle? Be genuinely curious about others. Listen more than you speak. Offer help without expecting anything in return. Share what you know. Support others' wins with as much excitement as your own. When you approach relationships this way, you naturally attract people who think like you, who challenge and uplift you, and who become your greatest allies. And the stronger your circle becomes, the less space there is for enemies in your world. Now, let's talk about something that is perhaps your most formidable tool in neutralizing enemies without confrontation: personal development. Continuous self-improvement is the ultimate strategy. Why? Because when you are always growing, always leveling up, you change the entire dynamic of the conflict. You change the entire dynamic of the conflict. You've evolved past them. To commit to constant improvement is to never rest on where you are. It's a lifelong process of learning, developing, and refining. Every experience, positive or painful, becomes material for growth. When you embrace this mindset, your enemies stop being threats. They become opportunities. Their judgment becomes your fuel. Their resistance becomes your resistance training. Their attempts to block you become stepping stones you use to gain traction. Let me offer a clear picture. Say you're a writer, and a certain critic always tears down your work. You could respond by lashing out, trying to discredit them, or dwelling on their negative reviews. Or you could treat their critique as insight. You could analyze their feedback to find what's valid. You could use it to sharpen your storytelling, your clarity, your style. You could work so hard on your craft that even this critic, over time, cannot deny your excellence. Do you see the contrast? One choice drains your energy. The other multiplies your strength. In the first case, your attention is on the enemy. In the second, your attention is on evolving. And as you evolve, their ability to harm you weakens. You rise above the level at which they can touch you. This philosophy applies to every domain. If you're an entrepreneur, strive to constantly enhance your services and leadership. If you're in a relationship, seek to deepen your understanding and patience. If you're a parent, learn how to be more present, compassionate, and wise. The beauty in this path is that it redirects your attention inward. You stop obsessing over the noise outside and start refining the engine within. You become immune, not because the world changes, but because you do. Let me tell you a personal story. Early in my career as a speaker and teacher, I encountered strong pushback from a few senior voices in my industry. They viewed my ideas as disruptive. They criticized me in public forums, questioned my credibility, and tried to bar me from events. I was angry. I wanted to defend myself, argue back, prove them wrong. But then I had a breakthrough. I realized that every second spent defending myself was a second lost from my mission. Every debate I engaged in stole energy from the people I was meant to empower. So I chose to shift course. I turned inward. I deepened my knowledge. I sharpened my message. I practiced until my delivery became world-class. I surrounded myself with supporters who believed in what I stood for. And something extraordinary happened. As I grew, my influence expanded. As more people were impacted by my message, the voices trying to silence me were drowned out by the voices uplifted through my work. I didn't destroy my enemies. I outgrew them. And in hindsight, they were instrumental. Their resistance forced me to be better, to clarify, to evolve. That's the transformation. That's what it means to destroy without fighting. It's about growth, not revenge, progress, not petty retaliation, purpose, not power games. Now, I understand that some of you might be thinking, what if my enemy is truly malicious? What if they're not just disagreeing with me, but actively trying to sabotage my work or reputation? That's a valid concern. Sometimes, yes, decisive action is necessary. You may need to defend your name, protect your business, or establish firm boundaries. But even in those instances, you are still more powerful when your responses are guided by purpose and clarity, rather than by emotional impulse. Because no matter how real the threat, your best weapon is still your growth, your clarity, your consistency, your calm. Every time you choose to rise instead of rage, you redefine the playing field. You shift the focus away from the enemy and back onto your mission. And from that space, true power emerges. The kind that doesn't need to crush others because it's too busy creating something greater. The principles we've explored still hold immense value. They're not only for handling minor irritations or everyday rivals. They are potent tools for navigating even the most intense and high-stakes challenges. Let's consider how these concepts apply when confronted with a genuinely malicious adversary. First and foremost, maintaining focus on your purpose becomes your anchor. It centers you, helping you stay rooted in what truly matters. When your sense of purpose is crystal clear, you're far less likely to be shaken or distracted by even the most aggressive tactics of your opposition. Self-awareness then becomes your armor. When you understand your emotional triggers and inner vulnerabilities, it becomes much harder for anyone to exploit them. You gain the clarity to see when you're being lured into a trap, and the composure to choose a more measured and productive response. Emotional intelligence becomes your strategic advantage. It enables you to stay composed, to think with clarity, even when you're under siege. It lets you read people and situations more effectively, understanding not only the moves of your enemy, but also the motives behind their actions. That deeper insight can help you plan your next step with precision. Your circle of influence becomes your sanctuary and your amplifier. When you're dealing with a legitimate threat, the strength of your network can change the game entirely. Trusted allies can offer guidance, open doors, supply resources, and even step in on your behalf when the stakes are high. And continuous self-improvement? That becomes your secret path to resilience and ultimate victory. As you consistently develop and elevate yourself, you become a moving target, more adaptable, more prepared, and always one step ahead of those who aim to pull you down. Let me share a real story to bring this to life. I once mentored a young entrepreneur, we'll call him David, who had developed a groundbreaking green energy technology. He was on the brink of securing major funding to bring it to market. But an entrenched energy conglomerate saw his innovation as a threat to their legacy systems. They didn't play fair. they launched a coordinated effort to ruin him. They spread false claims about the safety of his technology, filed multiple baseless lawsuits to exhaust his finances, and attempted to lure away his top engineers. David was overwhelmed. He approached me, feeling utterly defeated. "How can I fight against a corporation with virtually limitless money and power?" he asked. "They're attacking me from every direction. I can't breathe." That's when we began applying the principles. First, we anchored him back to his purpose. Why had he started this journey? Not just to earn profits. David had a dream of a cleaner planet, of democratizing access to sustainable energy. Reconnecting with this mission renewed his drive. Next came self-awareness. David recognized that much of his panic stemmed from a buried fear of letting people down, his team, his family, his investors. By identifying this fear, he was able to separate his emotional storm from the actual strategic challenges in front of him. Then we brought in emotional intelligence. We examined the enemy's behavior, not just at the surface level, but beneath it. What were they afraid of losing? What did their tactics reveal about their weaknesses? This allowed David to anticipate their next steps and prepare smarter countermeasures. We activated his circle of influence. David reached out to aligned institutions, environmental advocates, clean tech researchers, forward-thinking investors. These allies offered not just encouragement, but concrete support, legal help, funding leads, public endorsements. And David committed to growth. He refined his product, he worked on his storytelling to better convey the impact of his work, he sharpened his strategic thinking, he even adopted mindfulness techniques to manage stress and stay composed. What happened next was remarkable. Rather than crumble, David's company surged. The very attacks meant to destroy him only increased media attention and public sympathy. Courts dismissed the lawsuits, and some of the conglomerate's unethical tactics were exposed, leading to reputational fallout for them. Meanwhile, David secured more investment than ever before. His product entered new markets, and the opposition, once towering and fearsome, struggled to stay relevant. This story drives home a deeper truth. When you rise above the fight, when you focus on progress rather than opposition, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop playing your enemy's game and start playing your own. A game where the rules favor your strengths. Now, let's consider another form of enemy. Not someone out there, but the one within. What if the true adversary isn't a rival or a corporation, but your own inner resistance? What if your biggest battle is against self-doubt, fear, or the negative narrative in your mind? This may be the most crucial battle of all. Lakia. Its battlegrounds. Many of us unconsciously sabotage our own growth. We procrastinate, we underestimate ourselves, we let old wounds dictate current behavior. But the beautiful thing is, the very principles we've been exploring work powerfully against these internal enemies as well. Focus on your purpose, it becomes the antidote to fear. When your why is strong and meaningful, it overpowers the doubts that whisper you can't. Purpose is a force that pushes you forward even when your confidence wavers. Self-awareness is essential. You must be willing to examine yourself honestly, to see the negative beliefs and unproductive habits for what they are, not truths, but stories you've outgrown. Awareness makes change possible. Emotional intelligence helps you manage your own inner dialogue. When fear or self-criticism rises, you don't just react, you step back, understand the emotion, and choose a more constructive response. You learn to treat yourself with compassion without losing discipline. Your circle of influence again becomes vital. When you're battling internal doubt, surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, who see your strengths when you forget them, can be life-saving. Their belief in you can reignite your own belief. And finally, continuous improvement. This is the path to permanent transformation. With every small win, every new skill developed, every piece of progress made, your self-image changes. The version of you who doubted fades, replaced by someone more confident, more capable, more complete. Let me share something personal to bring this to life. Early in my journey as a public speaker, my greatest enemy was not a competitor or a critic. It was the voice in my head that told me I didn't belong on that stage, that I wasn't qualified, that if I spoke long enough, people would see through the facade and realize I was a fraud. That fear nearly stopped me. It made me question every opportunity. It crept into my delivery. It shook my posture, muted my voice, sabotaged my confidence. The breakthrough came when I applied the very principles I now teach. I reconnected with my mission, to inspire others, to rise above their limitations and lead with purpose. That gave me the courage to continue. If I began developing self-awareness, I discovered that my fear wasn't about speaking, it was about feeling unworthy. When I named that belief, I could begin the work of replacing it. I used emotional intelligence to stay grounded. I learned how to breathe through nerves, how to reframe my thoughts before walking on stage, how to use the fear as energy to fuel my message. I leaned heavily on my circle. My mentors, peers, and supporters offered encouragement that became my anchor. When I couldn't trust my own voice, I borrowed belief from theirs. And I never stopped improving. I studied speaking techniques, storytelling frameworks, psychology. I practiced relentlessly, and gradually, my fear turned into excitement. That inner critic never fully disappeared, but its power weakened. And today, when that voice reappears, I smile, because I know I'm stepping into growth. You may be fighting your own version of this battle. Maybe your enemy is perfectionism, or guilt, or past trauma. Maybe it's fear of success, or fear of failure. Whatever it is, know this: it can be overcome. And more than that, it can be transformed. That struggle, once understood and addressed, can become the very reason you succeed. So here's what I encourage you to do now. Identify your current enemy. Is it a person, a system, a situation, or is it internal? Whatever it is, hold it clearly in your mind, and for the next 7 days, apply these principles directly to it. Return to your purpose. Let it guide your choices. Increase your self-awareness. Reflect on your beliefs and habits. Practice emotional intelligence. Pause, respond, regulate. Strengthen your circle. Seek support. Give support. Commit to growth. Every single day, make one improvement. You may not solve the entire problem in a week, but the shift will begin. Your energy will shift. The way you see your enemy will shift. The way you carry yourself will shift. And from there, a new path opens up. One where conflict loses its grip and personal evolution takes center stage. Remember this: the goal isn't to win every confrontation. The goal is to grow so strong, so grounded in purpose, so elevated in mindset, that the conflict dissolves. The problems shrink, the enemies fade. What once looked like a mountain becomes just another stone on your path upward. This path won't always be easy. You'll still have moments of doubt. There will be temptations to stoop down and fight petty battles. There will be days when growth feels slow, and the urge to react is strong. But those are the moments when transformation is closest. Those are the moments when your resilience is forged, when you use the challenge to recommit to your mission, to deepen your insight, to expand your capacity. That's when greatness is born. Every enemy, external or internal, is offering you a choice. You can fight or you can grow. You can engage or you can elevate. You can react or you can rise. And when you choose growth, the world shifts around you. You become not only someone who overcomes, but someone who transforms. You become a force,